My husband had a secret family until I walked into their dinner. The woman looked at me like she had seen a ghost. Then the little boy sitting beside her whispered, "Dad, who is she?" My husband froze. He was standing at the head of a dinner table, holding a birthday cake, surrounded by people who clearly believed they knew him. And the strangest part, they all knew him by a different name. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply pulled out a chair, sat down beside his other family, and said, "Don't stop the dinner. I want to hear how long my husband has been pretending I don't exist. My name is Emily, and I had been married to Daniel for 7 years. 7 years. Long enough to know his coffee order. Long enough to know the scar above his left eyebrow. Long enough to recognize the sound of his footsteps coming up our stairs. And apparently, not long enough to know that my husband had another life. Daniel worked in commercial real estate. His job involved traveling between cities, meeting clients, inspecting properties, and attending dinners. At least that's what I believed. He was gone 2 or 3 nights every month. Sometimes more. Whenever I complained, he'd kiss my forehead and say, "It's temporary, Em. I'm doing this for us." And I believed him. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You give their words the benefit of the doubt. Then one Thursday night, something changed. Daniel came home from work and left his phone charging on the kitchen counter. That wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the message that appeared on the screen. "Can't wait to see you and Daddy tomorrow. Don't forget the cake." I stared at it. My first thought was that it had to be a joke. Maybe a coworker's kid. Maybe someone had the wrong number. I picked up the phone. The message disappeared. Then another notification appeared. "He has been asking all week when you're coming home." My hands went cold. I asked Daniel about it. He didn't even blink. "It's my assistant's kid," he said. Then he walked into the bedroom and shut the door. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But something inside me had already started breaking. The next morning, Daniel told me he had to travel to Portland for a client meeting. He kissed me goodbye at 7:12 a.m. I watched his car disappear. Then I opened my laptop. For the first time in 7 years, I searched through our shared financial account. There was a withdrawal. $1,850. Every month. Same date. Same amount. I had never noticed it. The description simply said, "Riverside Property Management." I called the bank. They couldn't tell me much. But they confirmed something that made my stomach drop. The payments had been going to an apartment complex. Not in Portland. Not anywhere near his office. They were in a town about 40 minutes away. I drove there. I didn't know what I expected to find. Maybe nothing. Maybe an empty apartment. Maybe proof that Daniel had been telling the truth. Instead, I saw his car, parked outside a 2-story townhouse. I sat there for almost 20 minutes. Then the front door opened. A woman walked outside. She was holding a little boy's backpack. And behind her came Daniel. My husband. He smiled. He kissed the woman on the cheek. Then he crouched down and hugged the boy. The boy wrapped his arms around Daniel's neck. And Daniel said something I couldn't hear. But I knew what it was. Because I had heard him say the same words to me thousands of times. "I love you." I took a picture. Then I drove home. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Because I wanted the truth. All of it. Over the next 2 weeks, I discovered things I wish I had never known. The woman's name was Rachel. The little boy's name was Noah. And Daniel had been living 2 separate lives for almost 5 years. 5 years. Rachel believed Daniel was divorced. Noah believed Daniel was his father. And I was apparently the wife he kept hidden. I found hotel receipts, restaurant bills, birthday purchases, a second phone, and dozens of photographs. Daniel had celebrated Noah's first day of school. He had taken Rachel on vacations. He had bought furniture for their home. He had even attended parent-teacher conferences. Meanwhile, I had spent our 7th anniversary eating takeout alone because he told me he was stuck at the airport. He wasn't at the airport. He was at Rachel's house. That realization hurt more than the cheating itself. He hadn't made one mistake. He had built an entire second life. Brick by brick. Lie by lie. 3 weeks later, I received an invitation. Not from Daniel. From Rachel. She had somehow found my email. The message contained only one sentence. I think you deserve to know who you're married to. There was an address. And a time. Friday. 7:00 p.m. I almost deleted it. Then I decided I was done being afraid of the truth. At 6:58 p.m., I walked into the restaurant. Daniel was there. Rachel was there. Noah was there. There were balloons, a birthday cake, and about 12 other people. Daniel looked at me. His face lost every bit of color. Rachel stood up slowly. Emily. I nodded. That's me. Daniel whispered. What are you doing here? I looked around the table. Then back at him. I was invited. Rachel's voice shook. You're his wife. I looked at Daniel. Apparently. The room became completely silent. Noah looked between us. Dad. Daniel opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Then Rachel started crying. Not because she had just discovered the affair. She already knew about me. She had known for 2 weeks. She had invited me because she wanted me to see what Daniel had been telling her. He had told Rachel that I was his sister. He had told her our marriage ended years ago. He had even shown her an old photograph of me and said, "She won't be part of my life much longer." I stared at him. You told her I was your sister. Daniel looked down. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because sometimes the truth is so ridiculous that crying doesn't feel big enough. Rachel asked him one question. Which one of us were you going to leave? Daniel didn't answer. That was his answer. He wanted both. He wanted the comfort of our marriage and the excitement of his secret family. He wanted me to pay the mortgage. He wanted Rachel to believe she was his future. He wanted Noah to believe he was a good father. He wanted everyone to love him. And somehow, he thought nobody would ever compare notes. I stood up. I don't want an explanation. Daniel looked at me. Emily, please. No. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I pulled an envelope from my purse. His eyes dropped to it. What is that? The truth. Inside were copies of our bank statements, photographs, hotel receipts, and messages. But there was one more document. Something Daniel hadn't expected. A letter from my attorney. I had met with her 2 days earlier. Because while Daniel was building a second family, I had started protecting myself. Daniel had been secretly moving money. He had used our joint accounts to pay for Rachel's apartment, vacations, furniture, and other expenses. He thought nobody would notice. But I had. And I wasn't going to let him walk away with everything he had taken from our marriage. I told him, tomorrow morning, The bank will freeze the accounts that require both our signatures. His face changed. You can't do that. I already did. Rachel stared at him. You used her money. Daniel didn't answer. Rachel looked at me. Then at him. And suddenly, she understood something I hadn't realized until that moment. Daniel hadn't just lied to me. He had lied to her too. He hadn't built a second family. He had built two separate versions of himself. And neither one was real. 3 months later, Daniel and I were divorced. Rachel ended their relationship too. She eventually allowed Daniel to maintain contact with Noah, but only through a formal arrangement. As for me, I moved. I found a smaller apartment, started therapy, changed my phone number, and for the first time in years, I learned how peaceful silence could be when nobody was lying to you. Sometimes people think revenge means destroying the person who hurt you. I don't believe that anymore. My revenge was simpler. I stopped protecting Daniel from the consequences of his own choices. He wanted 2 lives. He got neither. One evening, months after the divorce, I received an email from him. It said, "I still love you." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I deleted it. Because 7 years ago, I thought losing my husband would be the worst thing that could ever happen to me. I was wrong. The worst thing was spending years with someone who had already decided I wasn't worth the truth. And the best thing, walking into that dinner wasn't the moment I lost my marriage. It was the moment I finally walked out of the lie. And this time I didn't look back.